Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Justice League podcast. It is episode 25, and you know what? It should be episode 26. And I'm doing this one in my car, so if you hear some engine noises, that is what's going on. But it should be 26. It should be 26 because I recorded a podcast on voice memos, which I'm doing right now, and I completely forgot to post it. This was like mid-November. We got a full podcast ready to go, and I forgot to post it. I don't know what happened. Well, okay, it's not a full podcast, it's half a podcast, so it's 30 minutes. And so I guess that's where the confusion came in, was I meant to record the second half, forgot to record the second half, and then just never uploaded the first half. So anyways, 25, this is episode 25, but there's maybe I can release the extra footage at some point. I'm sure it's not that exciting. But anyways, gotta start out and just say congrats to Matthew and Aaron for making the championship game. I thought I could do it. I thought I could make it 3 in a row. But I just got edged out, and both are very deserving. Both teams, interestingly enough, are from the Loser Sock-Offs Lake Gym. So I don't know if we've ever had that. No, we did. We did. We had that back in 2020. So there's definitely something to be said about being in the Loser Sock-Offs Lake Gym, whether it's easier to get into the playoffs, or maybe you just have better draft picks because you're, a little bit earlier in the draft. But something about it, being in the LSLJ and making the championship game. I guess last year we had two. Where was Tristan? I don't know. Anyways, don't wanna go on about that. But yeah, both teams, Aaron and Matthew, both missed the playoffs last year. I got an earful from both of them last year. This year, they did very well to turn it around, come back out, perform exceptionally, and now they're both in the championship. And they both, after the end of last season, they helped enact this change that we had, the change to the playoff format, the change that that shook the nation, shook the league. So anyway, so this is the first time for Matthew since 2019. First time he's been in. His team's been through a lot, been through some unlucky years, been through some unlucky games. But he's back. He's back on top. He's back in the championship. And then just to recap his team real quick, he's had an amazing draft. Like so many players from his draft are like still on the roster, still in the starting spot. So he just had such a great draft. Um, his best pickup during the league was probably Chris Olave. But for him, yeah, it really comes all down to the draft. I mean, Chubbs, Evan, Kittle, McCaffrey. I mean, he took Jamal Williams at 145th, and Jamal ended up being RB11. And so something else that Matthew did was he kind of like not like did it for the league as a whole, but did for my mentality. Was he going into this year? I was thinking that it would be a season dominated by wide receivers. I was thinking that they would be king. They would have it all. No one would be able to stop them. And the running backs, I thought, kind of similar to last year. Maybe I just had bad running backs on my team last year. No, not maybe. I definitely did. But I guess I just thought the running back performance as a whole in 2021 from throughout the league was pretty weak, while the strong wide receivers made the difference. So I thought that was going to continue this year, just the way that the NFL is going. But no, Matthew proved that wrong. He proved that you can still lead a team to a championship with a core running back. And not you can, but almost rather you need a core 3 running backs to make the championship. Uh, anyways, don't know if that means anything, but congrats to Matthew. And then Aaron's back. Didn't take long at all for him to get back in. He was only out of the championship for 1 year, so he's had a great little 3-year stretch here. If you look at it on the whole, and the history books, because of that, the history books are going to need to start putting respect on his name. Give him some dang respect, because he's breaking in. This is kind of like he's changing. He's changing the tides. He was a mid-major for a handful of years there, but now he's the Power Five conference. Um, this is like his UConn basketball era. He's starting to make a name for himself, and this is when he officially becomes a blue blood. Well, that's a bit extreme because he hasn't won the championship yet, but just the fact that he's making championships on the regular is, impressive enough. And then for Aaron, he's just dominated all season long. I feel like maybe has been pushing this narrative that he had like a comeback season. Okay, this season as a whole was a comeback season compared to last season, but that he was like a comeback kid for like this season alone. But really, he was fine. I mean, he started 1-3, um, which like I don't know, sounds bad, but it's almost like, for me at least, I put way too much weight of importance on that, the start of the league. Like for some reason, it feels so much more heavy. Like a 1-3 start, it sounds like a horrible team, but there's just so much football left to be played that it almost doesn't matter. I guess an 0-4 start might be a bad look, but even then, like if you do well enough, which Aaron did, he ended up winning 6 straight and on his way to the playoffs. So yeah, I just remember putting Aaron at 4 in the power rankings after week 1. I liked his team a lot, and I remember Aaron putting me at 4 is egregious, and I still don't understand that text to this day. Why would you self diss yourself, self own yourself? Yeah, your team didn't even have the worst week 1 in the league, and I just saw greatness. I saw greatness in the team, and glad to see that he's there. He's pulled it through. He's made the moves. Aaron also had a great draft, by the way. Took Stevenson 77th overall. Took K9 97th overall. Just incredible pickups by him. And then going off of that, like I'm kind of maybe this is just I suck at drafting, but I'm kind of starting to think that some of the most important rounds are like round 7, 8, 9. Because if you get like round 1 and 2 are the most important, but 3, 4, 5, 6, they're like pishy caca. I don't think I've ever had a good player come out of those rounds. No, that's not true. But if you're like Aaron and you can draft a Ramondre Stevenson or a Kenneth Walker in round 8 and 9, I mean that's where you're going to get a lot of bang for your buck. Um, so they might be the most important. I don't know. It just seems like they might. Seems like because they're so far back in the draft, you think, oh, my 7 pick, my 8 pick, my 10 pick, they're not going to do anything for me. But no, if you make the right pick, they could potentially be the difference maker. And then Aaron, continued his success in the midseason, making a trade with Tristan. Um, he sent away Austin Eckler, which was shocking, but hindsight's 2020. He brought in a Baltimore defense that he desperately needed after having just terrible luck streaming defenses, and then he brought in a couple players that really rounded out his squad and made it like extremely solid in T. Higgins and DeAndre Swift. DeAndre Swift, I wouldn't say made it extremely strong, but T. Higgins turned out to be an amazing pick after Jamar Chase got injured. So I'll save. I'll probably go on a little bit more about those guys at the end of the season, or like I'll do like a end of season recap podcast. But I don't know. I just talked a lot about it. I guess I feel like I talked a lot about it, but maybe I didn't. So yeah, congrats to those guys for making the championship, and we'll talk more about the championship. Yeah, after the next one, because yeah. All right, so I'm going to now use this time to lament my loss because I need to get off my chest. And I know no one wants to hear me talk about it in person. And then this way, I can also avoid like any feuds. I can just talk straight up. I can spill it all out. You guys can drop comments as feedback, but at least this way, I don't have to, have any discourse. I can just, you know what I mean? Like I can just have my monologue. I can just have my rant, and don't need to worry about anything. So I'm just gonna get it off my chest. So if you don't want to hear me whine and complain. It might be an interesting segment, but anyways, yeah. So if you didn't know, And I already said it. I lost Matthew. Matthew made the championship. I did. And it was a 2-week matchup. I took a 13-point lead after week 1, but I let go of that lead in week 2. Ended up only scoring 104.36 points in week 2. So pretty happy to get 2 100-point weeks in a row. But Matthew garnered an impressive 120.76 in the second week, and he ended up winning over 2 weeks. 210 something to 210.96 to 208.16, I believe was the final score. So there are 3 things that stand out. There are 3 things from this game that stand out to me as, I guess, maybe like reasons I lost or just moments that made it feel, I don't know. They're just 3 things that stand out about this loss. For me personally, it's not like probably the 3 things that I maybe should be talking about. I don't know what those would be. It's not like a combined 3 things. I'm looking at kind of, or maybe it is combined. I don't know. Anyways, number 1, Mike Evans. So this is a bit far-fetched of the 3, but Mike Evans was playing Sunday night, and all game long he was quiet. Quiet. After 60 minutes, he had 1 reception, 5 yards, and I was feeling good. I was feeling good about it. It was all going to plan. Okay, I guess, yeah, it was all going to plan. And then Tom Brady 12 drove all the way down the field. Ryan Suckup kicked a field goal. It's 2:27 left, and they tied it. So it was all going to plan. Mike Evans had 1 reception. Cardinals were going to win. Game's going to be over. And we were going to head into Monday night. Mike Williams versus Keenan Allen. But no, Ryan Suckup had to kick a field goal and had to make it. And guess who's on my kill list now? Ryan Suckup. And, this was a dude that I stuck with all season long. He was on my team for, I think I drafted him. Oh, I forgot this fact. I drafted him in round 12. So I drafted this kicker. And I didn't even draft him in the last round. Because you have to draft a kicker. But normally, you just draft him in the last round. Unless his name's Justin Tucker. But no, I drafted this fool in round 12. I could have taken Jamal Williams. But no, I picked Ryan Suckup. And I stuck with him. Stuck with him all season long. And I dropped him, I think, for the playing game, or the week before the playing game for my matchup with Zach. Dropped him for Brett Mayer, who did well. No complaints about Brett Mayer. But he made it personal. He made it personal by hitting that field goal. And, I don't dig that. No, I'm not down with that. I'm fuming. I'm quite honestly fuming at Ryan Suckup. If he didn't make that field goal, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what to say about Ryan Suckup. He was fine for most of the season, and then he just became a complete butt munch and stopped kicking field goals the past 5 weeks. So I dropped him, and then what does he do? He comes out and screws me over by making that field goal. So anyways, the field goal forces OT, and guess who got more points in overtime? Mike Evans. So if Ryan Suckup, my new kill list member, didn't make that field goal, I would have been saved a couple of points. Mike Evans ended up catching two passes in OT for 24 yards, which just felt like the beginning of the end. I felt it in my bones. That my luck might be running short. When that happened, when they pushed into overtime, I was honestly more nervous. I thought for sure Mike Evans was going to score a touchdown and bury me, but thankfully it was only 24 yards. And so, although I wouldn't have won if OT hadn't happened, Matthew still would have beaten me by 0.4 points. If all else stayed the same, and Mike Williams, didn't go into OT and still only had those 5 points, Matthew would still have just ever so slightly won. But still, I don't know. There's just something about that that like if he didn't get those two catches in OT, I feel like things could have gone different. It just felt like a juju switching moment. Felt like felt like the wind changed at that moment. Not that like the wind was completely in my favor, but it just felt like maybe it turned against my favor a couple extra miles per hour. Mike Evans, man, not on my kill list. Like I said, Mike Evans won't be on my kill list. He's fine. I would still consider drafting him. He's a great wide receiver, great player. Um, but Ryan Suckup, I don't know. He's on my kill list. All right, number two. All right, number two, Mike Williams. This one's a little like less far-fetched, less foolish of like a hate or like moments. But anyways, Mike Williams' week's performance gave me hope. Um, and that hope was blazing for most of Monday night, just absolutely blazing. So I'm passing someone. Whoopsie. This guy wanted to get by. Not that he's gonna go much faster than me. Anyways. But anyways, my hope was blazing. I really felt it. I felt hope that I just might squeak it out. Keenan Allen jumped to a quick 36 or so yards. I'm not sure, but 36. And so that wasn't enough to get me in the lead against Matthew, but it was enough to bring me very close to Matthew. But it didn't really matter when Keenan Allen was at that because Mike was still kind of hot on his tail with 34 yards. Then Keenan Allen jumps back up to over 100 yards, and I was in the lead. Keenan Allen brought it up to 100 yards, and I was in the lead. And at that point, my hope was skyrocketed. It was blazing hot. I was like, it might just happen. I didn't think I wasn't like, oh, I won this game. It's over. It was more like, it might just happen. I could make a third consecutive. It might just happen. Because, I mean, it was looking good. It was looking good. I was hopeful. I had a smile on my face. I was trying not to crack a smile. Maybe that's my downfall. But then the fourth quarter rolled around. To be honest, it felt like garbage time. I mean, it was 13-3. Chargers were dominating the whole game. Like, not like crazy on offense, but I mean, the Colts couldn't do anything on offense, so it just kind of felt like they were dominating. And I figured that they would just start running it. They would just start running it, throw a couple short balls, run the clock out, maybe score another touchdown, maybe score a field goal, and it'd all be over. I didn't think that there'd be any deep ball potential left in the game. But that was just not to be. The opening drive of the fourth quarter, Mike Williams pierced my heart with his cold black metal dagger. I felt every groove in that dagger tear a new bit of flesh away as he plunged it through my torso to the tune of a 24-yard catch. It was a dagger. It felt cold. It felt ruthless. It felt heartless. I felt out of nowhere. I felt betrayed. I felt angry. But there was still hope. The drive wasn't over. Perhaps a pass to Allen is on the cards, I wondered. Will Allen touch the ball this drive? Nope. A second grab for Mike Williams. This time, Mike stabbed me in the jugular. 16 yards downfield. Mike makes the catch that ends all other catches. The catch heard round the world, and the game slipped through my hands. I just stared at the TV, praying that Brandon Staley call up a play, pass it to Keenan Allen, please. Hit it to him in the end zone, please. But nope, it was not to be. Grabbed one more yard, one more pass. That was a 1-yard pass in the fourth. Didn't count for much. And the world filled with darkness. I sat there began to feel that feeling, that horrible sense, that horrible feeling that your fantasy season is over. It's done. Nothing more to look forward to. You're not going to win the championship. You're not going to be, number one. You're not going to have bragging rights. Your fantasy season is over. Hadn't felt that since 2019. I was getting used to good feelings all the time. Hadn't felt that one since 2019. And it's a horrible feeling. So that's number two, Mike Williams. And so Mike Williams probably wasn't even the most obvious of them all. My new arch nemesis, Donta Foreman. Arch nemesis. The supreme nemesis. Picked him up back in the day, back in the mid-season. Immediately, I picked him up very quick. Like right after I heard the news of CMC's trade, picked him up, got him on my team. And yeah, he didn't see the roster often, but he did his part. He helped me achieve my highest score in week 10. He played a role in that, scoring like 19 or so points. And then, we got a situation up ahead. Okay, we're good. And he played a role, far less significant, but a role nonetheless in my win in the playing game over Tristan. But to that point, he'd more or less served his purpose. He, got helped me beat Aiden, helped me beat Tristan. I was in the playoffs. I was in. But his value to my team was dwindling. It was fading away. I wasn't seeing what I needed to see, and when he was only able to rack up 0.9 points in the first week of the semifinals, his story on my team was finished. We parted ways mutually, or so I had thought. Yes, I was dropping him from my roster, perhaps taking away his chance to get a JL ring, no doubt. But he showed me in the locker room, what he showed me on the practice field, what he showed me on the actual field, it wasn't fitting the culture that I was hoping to build. And he just was not going to be a part of my team anymore. So I dropped him. All right. So to talk semi-seriously about this, I genuinely did not have any confidence in Foreman anymore. Um, I didn't think that he was going to be a valuable piece of my team. He'd done well for a couple games, but yeah, like I said, just not genuinely worthwhile to keep on my team. Didn't think he was probably going to play in the finals if I had made the finals. But I was missing the the key piece that Tristan mentioned. That was really important. He was playing against the Lions. So I do kind of wish I would have considered that a little bit more. I will say I thought, I think I've said this, I thought that the Lions defense was going to be okay. I thought maybe they would be able to lock down, but nope. They were not able to lock him down. And I'm sure Matthew could talk ad nauseum about it for me. But for me, I'm sure he could talk ad nauseum about the pickup and the play and all that jazz. But for me, it's just more or less one of the many. Full stop on the highway. Hate to see that. This wasn't I guess for me, the way that I feel about it in a way is it just doesn't feel like the defining thing. It feels more like the cherry on top, if anything. It doesn't feel like the defining moment, I suppose. Because even if yeah, I just for me, all that it comes down to for me is just the fact shouldn't have dropped him. That that's all it encompasses for me. Shouldn't have dropped him. That's it. I mean, didn't have to play him, you know what I mean? But just shouldn't have dropped him. Because even if I didn't play him, we would have been in a totally different situation. Unless Matthew played Tyler Higbee in the flex spot, but still shouldn't have dropped him. Okay, okie dokie. So those are my three most personal hurts, I guess. Those are my three most personal hurts that I've taken from that game. An honorable mention would be my defense. I ended up playing the Titans defense when I had been sitting on the Philly defense all year long. I'd had New England, Philly. I was putting them back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Literally could have played either one of those defenses. They're like the number 1 and 2 ranked defenses in fantasy. And yet I chose to stream a defense. How dumb is that? I chose to stream a defense after all season long of not streaming defense. That's the reason I had Philly and New England still on my roster, so that I wouldn't have to stream a defense, so that I would play one or the other. They were both matchup proof. And yet, for some dumb reason, I think I should go out and stream a defense. I could have played either one, and I would have won this game. Oh, all right. That's an honorable mention. Tons of what ifs. Another small what if would been have if I put Pickens in the flex spot. That was a genuine choice that I was trying to make. Pickens, Darius Slayton. Pickens, Darius Slayton. Who am I going to play in the flex? Um, Anyways, I could go on and on and on about the what ifs, but nothing I can do. All right, next thing to say about this game is the bragging rights. So we got to talk a little bit about the bragging rights because there already has been some bragging rights shatter. Um, Matthews earned them. If you win, you get bragging rights. It's how it works. It's how it will be. It's how it is. How it always will be. Matthew earned the right to write in the history books whatever he wants. However, there has been talk about Matthew outclassing me, and I just feel that that is the completely wrong word to use. So if you look up on Google definition of outclass, or like to outclass, sorry, traffic jam, probably should have waited another minute. I thought the traffic jam would have been over. Like to outclass, Google comes up with the definition of be far superior to. Now I don't know about y'all, but a 3-point win is not far superior. Look, Matthew's a heck of a manager, had a great team this year, but I would absolutely not say that he outclassed me. Yes, picking up and playing Foreman was a good move, but it quite literally almost did not even work out for Matthew. He was 3 points away from that move not working out. Matthew was 2 catches away in the fourth quarter of a Monday Night Football game from losing. I would not call that an outclassing. I'm not going to say that Matthew got lucky. Matthew did well to set his roster as he did, but I reiterate, there is no shot in the world that he outclassed me. All right, and then going off of bragging rights, I feel that the narrative forming on his side of the camp is that I was like the instigator or something like that. I don't know. I'm not really sure. Not really sure if that's the case, but I just get that feeling that I was the drama. And this is a little bit of loser talk, but I just want to recap the season beef. And I just feel that in no way that I started this beef. So just to start, I want to get this out. I understand if you guys take the power rankings personally. I understand that's an easy thing to do because I'm, talking about you, talking about your team, trying to talk about your team, not really trying to talk about you per se. But I promise you, 95% of the time, power rankings are not personal and not personal. They were that one week when I made Tristan and Matthew last place, yes. And when I made Alex first place, yes. Those were a bit personal, but come on. That was blatant. Obviously, I was going to do something personal that week. I was getting just yammed on from these two all week long. So you shouldn't be pissed that I put you in last place. I mean, come on. All right. Anyways, if the sense is that personal power rankings should be taken personally, then yes, I might have started the beef. But again, like I said, in my eyes, those power rankings are not meant to start beef. They're not meant to be personal. Just like an analysis of your team, how I view your team. And honestly, it varies week to week. I don't know. It's just a ranking that I come up for your team, a weekly ranking that I come up with. And maybe it is something that's inherently personal. I don't know. Um, but again, so I guess this is a good way to look at it is just try to look at it as like it's the rankings are written by some third party news source, and ignore that it's me as a manager of one of the teams in the fantasy league. It's not meant to start the beef. It's not meant to start beef between two teams. Just act like it's a journalist. Hate the journalist. You know what I mean? Don't stupid dumb knobhead journalists. So that's my best advice for you. If you think power ranking is personal, just pretend it's ESPN. Pretend it's not me. Some random journalist doesn't know anything about ball, has zero ball knowledge. But anyways, my point in all this is basically I have physical proof that I was nary the antagonizer. I was barely ever, if ever, the antagonizer. So let's start. Wednesday, September 21st. Tristan sends an unsolicited but funny text claiming he will baptize me this week, the coming week. Now it was funny. It makes me smile now. It's a funny way to put things. I'm gonna baptize you. I like it. And I clapped back. I sent back some gifs, some memes. I don't think they were like crazy, memes. Like I wasn't like showing him any. I don't know. It was just I thought it was good banter. But the same day, shortly after, Matthew makes a claim that I won't keep getting away with winning, but he goes on to say I have a good squad, which is appreciated. And to that point, I feel like the beef was just between Tristan and myself, if there was any beef at that point. And then next, Wednesday, September 28th, we get another unsolicited text, this time from Matthew, saying, Johnny, your team is trash, lol. And I respond pretty innocently. I just send, SpongeBob clip with like some mocking laughter. And perhaps there are hints of beef, but I didn't take great offense to that text either. And then sometime between the 28th and October 3rd, I feel like this is when the beef really started heating up, started getting aggressive. I get an FU reader from Tristan. And then guess who emphasizes it? Guess who one other person emphasizes it. Guess who it is? Matthew. Matthew emphasizes it. And now it's beef. Now it's full on beef. Now Tristan and Matthew have a problem with me. And then Matthew continued on in that same conversation saying, why don't you keep starting Devin Duvernay? And I mean, I hadn't even clapped back in a major way at that point. I had only said, is this because I ranked Connor poorly? I was trying to figure out why there was beef. My understanding of beef and where the hate was coming from, it was over my head. I had no clue. And then October 3rd, I made another one I thought was innocent comment on Luke's team. I said, Luke, it looks like you might be getting that sweet Monday night revenge on Matt. And apparently that's opened a can of worms because Matthew picks up right where he left off, starts verbally assaulting my team and managerial prowess. He goes, Johnny be like, I have the most points for in the league, lol. What's your going to be excuse tomorrow? Trash team, we called trash before a snap of football was played this week. I mean, beats me where he's told with this. And this is presumably because my team had landed a favorable ranking in the week 3 and week 4 power rankings. But my team also at that point was 3-0 and then 3-1. And in those weeks, I had respectively the most and then the third most points for in the leagues. So perhaps the PRs have been favorable. Maybe not everyone gets that treatment. But this is still pretty early in the season. It's the journalists, they're trying to figure out who's legit. And is it not unreasonable for a journalist to look at those stats, look at that data for a team, and say, hey, this is a pretty good team. They should be up there in the power rankings. Granted, the power rankings are complicated thing because I want to be impartial, but I'm also going to have, naturally, I'm going to have some very strong emotions to my team. So if they're doing well, I'm going to tend towards, oh, my team is really good. It's the greatest in the world. And if my team is doing bad, I'm going to think that, they're the worst team in the world. I hate my team. They're going to stink. So again, I don't know. Just try to act like it isn't me. Try to act like it's some journalist, Homer journalist who loves one team. And plenty of real world examples. Happens all the time in the real world. So then, sometime in October, I make a statement, a little bit whiny for sure, but I'm saying something like, season's busted. This was after a couple straight losses. I'm like, season's busted, game over. I ain't winning anything. And this one's a little bit more understandable, also a little bit funny. Matthew just hits me with the L. Not really mad, just another example of, I send a not beefy text and then I get beef back. Or, someone else starting the beef that isn't me. So, move ahead. November 8th. More unsolicited beef from Tristan. Um, he was talking about how it'd be funny if I didn't get Justin Fields. And objectively, yes, that would be funny. Objectively, no doubt. It would have been funny for everyone else in the league. But still, unsolicited beef. I don't know where it's coming from. And maybe it's power rankings. Maybe you guys didn't like where I was putting you in the power rankings. But again, that's why I came out with the disclaimer. For me, in my head, they're not personal. I'm not taking it personally, except obviously those 2 times. But then that should be obvious when it's personal and when it's not personal. If I, more or less, maybe it's not obvious. Maybe because it's something that's in my head that I'm writing. So yeah, maybe it's not obvious. I don't know. November 11th, after resending the preseason odds that I had come up with. Dang it, man, I'm in such a bad position. I'll just go fast, my best. I resent the preseason odds, so I came up with some odds, like who's going to win the league and, who's going to win their division, who's going to have all this stuff. And Matthew hits me with some more unsolicited beef, some out of nowhere beef, and says, please update the after the draft Johnny. That's how I read it. Is he was saying, update your ranking because you suck. Like, you'll never have those odds, something like that. That's how I was reading it. But perhaps there's a chance that he was maybe saying, please update after the draft, Johnny. Like, he just wanted me to update the after the draft column because there was a column, I just hadn't updated it. So maybe that's what he was saying. Maybe, maybe no beef on this time, but I took it as beef because he didn't use punctuation. Punctuation mattered. If this was Soviet era Russia, you said something like that about Stalin, history would be, you'd be dead. You wouldn't stand a chance. So, anyways, I did reply to this one, did clap back with this one. I hit him with the L because I just recently won. All right, and then December 15th, I undergo some taunting. Matthew's taunting me a little bit. He's asking me, who should I start in his lineup? He was asking me my preference of who I should start. So he's taunting me. And I don't know. Felt like that was a little bit taunting. Taunting. So, anyways, just to recap, the reason I went over that was, in my point, I was just using, background evidence, and then I was going to get to my point. And my point is, I feel that the beef was brought upon me for no reason. And additionally, I feel like I handled the beef pretty professionally. I had some clapbacks, nothing crazy though. Barely called out their team, barely called out their managerial progress. Hit them with the L once. You know what I mean? Felt like I did okay. I clapped back, recently against Tristan, but that's because it was kind of game over. I was in the playoffs, he wasn't. So I don't know. Maybe that's carrying on with the beef. Maybe I just don't say anything. I don't know. But again, like I said, maybe in the power rankings, you guys were feeling disrespectful, taking it as like a slight from as one manager to another. But again, like I said, that's not what the power rankings are. Yes, I use my managerial knowledge and insight in making those power rankings, but I'm not meaning to call you out and say you're a bad manager. I'm mainly trying to say, like, this is where your team sits. Do I think it's a good team? And I guess maybe that's inherently personal because it's like, do I? But again, take it as like a journalist. Try not to, because, separate the manager from the journalist. If you can do that. All right. And then also, one last thing concerning beef. I beat Matthew. And did I say anything in the group chat? Did I, say anything like, suck it, like you lost, bitch, anything like that? I was very respectful in the group chat. Don't even think I said anything. And guess what? Stayed at number 2 in the power rankings that week. Didn't even disrespect it that much. He was still at number 2. He was in the top 2 after losing to me. Could have made it personal, but I didn't. Oh my god, this guy's crazy. Cut me off. Don't know where he needs to go. Okay. Okay. So I've had my chance to lament about my loss, to vent, get it off my chest, get the beef off my chest. But that kind of led to, like, where did this beef come from? Because again, I kept saying it, repeating it over and over. I felt like it was unsolicited. The season started with beef, and I feel like there wasn't really any beef in the off season. There wasn't any sparks going into the season. So, like, where is this beef coming from? Why did it seem like out of the blue Matthew hated my team for no reason? Was it solely because of my run in the jail playoffs last year? I feel like like I said, in the offseason, no sparks. I feel like we had all offseason to cool off. So where does it come down to? Did some investigative journalism, and I think I uncovered the underlying case. It's because I own Matthew when it comes to the jail. I own him. Only twice I've suffered a losing record against Matthew in a season. And that was like a long time ago. That was like 2015 and like 2017. Like, that was ages ago. And then in our overall head-to-head, guess where I sit? 12-6. I'm 12-6 against Matthew. And then, especially, I don't know, like, this is a little unfair to do this, but if you count, like week 1 and week 2, or like week 15 and week 16, if you separate those into 2 matchups, which they aren't, so it's a little bit loser talk, but if you separate those, I'm kind of 2-1 on the year with Matthew. You know what I mean? So, yeah. So I just, like, had to take a drink of water. Forgot that I was on mic right there. Got that I was mic up. So, anyways, Matthew hadn't beaten me in fantasy football since 2018.
Correction, 2017.
I beat him, I think, twice last year, or maybe once, and then it was like once, twice, once, something like that. So he hadn't beaten me since 2018. So there was a bit of U of M versus Wisconsin scenario going on here. Where I'm Michigan, Matthews Wisconsin, and Wisconsin's had to suffer years of defeat at Michigan's hands. They got beaten down all the time. And during the regular season, who does Michigan care about? About Notre Dame, aka Justin. Care about Michigan State, aka Tristan. Care about Zach, my Ohio State. And then Wisconsin, just maybe they feel they don't get like the respect, they don't get the attention from fans, from the coaching staff that they deserve. And it doesn't even compute to me all the wins, all the the excellence that I've achieved against Matthew. So yeah, I mean, again, Michigan, when we beat Wisconsin, it's nice, feels good. It's a hurdle that we have to get over. We see them, they're a good team. We know Wisconsin's a good team, but we beat them. So it's just like, yeah, at the end of the day, it's Wisconsin, great team, but got doesn't carry as much weight. Doesn't carry as much weight as accomplishment. If we beat Michigan State in a season feels like a win. If we beat Ohio State in a season, and maybe lose to Wisconsin that season, it doesn't happen often, but it feels like a win of a season. But when you lose to Wisconsin, if you beat Wisconsin but lose to Michigan State, lose to Notre Dame, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, it happens. But even then, it doesn't happen often enough such that, yeah, just Michigan-Wisconsin scenario. So now that Wisconsin, when Wisconsin, starts winning, starts beating up against Michigan, they want to let you hear it. They want to let Michigan fans hear it. They want to let them know, like, that they think they're better and all that stuff. And then us Michigan fans were sitting there like, what? Where's this beef coming from, Wisconsin? Like, we don't really hate you. We don't really, who is this dude? Why is he hating me so much? What have we done to Wisconsin? And so, anyways, the narrative in the two camps is just different. For Matthew and his fans, they just feel like they conquered the world. I think they feel like that was their Super Bowl. They think they're top dog. They feel like they outclassed the better team. But for my camp, the narrative, it's not the same. I'm gonna hit you with a bomb right here. I feel like I didn't build this up enough, but like Matthew didn't win. We let him win. Michigan let Wisconsin win. The only reason he was able to defeat me was because I gave him the key to do it. I gave him the player to do it. He won because I made it so. So, when your little brother wins a game and, celebrates it for the first time, it'll, make big claims, get up on your face. He thinks he's top dog. Uh, he'll talk smack, and as big brother, you just sit there, you smile, let him have it, let him have his good time, because you just know he ain't standing a chance next time you guys play. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and I'll catch you on the flip side. Okay, warning. I kind of like scripted this podcast out, not really scripted it. But yeah, I like partially scripted it out because um I don't know. I just like I wanted to write my thoughts down first, I guess. So I wrote my thoughts down, and then I um kind of lost steam. I kind of lost my train of thought. Like when I was writing it down, if I had been writing it down and speaking it at the same time, I think it might have been fire. But I think it came across as a little choppy because I was kind of forgetting what I wanted to say, and then I was using my notes, and then kind of reading verbatim off my notes, and so it's a bit choppy. But anyways, scripted podcast. Let me know how you think it went. Hopefully, it's good. I was also driving, so I was distracted. I shouldn't have been done this while driving. But anyways, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed.